Welcome to Joplin Schools Preparing for the Future. I'm your host, Bonnie Skirman, and with so much going on in our rebuilding of our buildings and our schools, a lot of focus has been on how students learn and having that wonderful thing called vision. And to work on that vision, we have with us today our Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Angie Besendorfer, with us.
Hello.
Welcome. You have been, of course, very busy, and first of all, I want to say how wonderful it has been to have you in the leadership positions. You guys have been doing a wonderful, incredible job getting us back.
We have a wonderful team.
Everyone really has stepped up and has done a wonderful job of getting us back. And now the big task ahead is, of course, the rebuilding. And so we wanted to talk about that. I know that part of your focus has also been on the vision, establishing what do we want our schools to be like, to feel like, and about learning. And this started a long time ago. And you've done a lot of things to help prepare that vision for our schools. What are some of the things that you have been involved in that have helped with establishing our vision?
Well, a long time before the tornado, we started working on what needs to happen in education so that we can better meet the needs of our students. And so we've had a lot of training of staff and principals and working through those kinds of things. And even had started dreaming about those kinds of strategic planning pieces of what do we really want to have happen. And interestingly, right before the tornado, just about a month before, we had a strategic planning meeting with about 100 people that came together and they defined what are the 21st century skills we want our students to graduate with. So that was a perfect springboard for us when this tragedy happened.
And that's been one of the wonderful things about our district is we're always looking at what is new, what the direction we need to be going, especially in professional development, for example. Now, I know as part of that, you visited a lot of different locations to kind of get an idea of what are some of the new trends going on.
Right. We've done a lot of different work as we've worked towards the 21st century schools, and from looking at the research to having people come in and talk to us, but then we've also taken site visits, and we really combed the United States for what are the schools that are out there that people that are talking about, and what is it that they're doing, and so we've picked some of those schools, went to see them, and then now we have the incredible opportunity to cherry pick from that. And so, you know, we went to Manor New Tech, and we're taking ideas from there and blending it with ideas from Wunchie and Dubisky and marrying those together, and then taking some ideas from Omaha, Nebraska and West Side School and marrying it all together to build a school that doesn't yet exist.
And I know that there have been more people involved in this process than just staff members as well.
Right. With our site visits, we actually wanted to be sure that we had a lot of different kinds of thinking, so that when we looked at it, we weren't just looking at it with teacher eyes, that we were looking at it with community eyes. And so on our site visits, we took parents and community members and teachers and principals, and then I went on all of those to try to be that common thread across the whole thing. So.
Now, after you have all of that information and you come back, how did you process that information, and how did that impact the decision with establishing the vision?
Well, each time we went on a site visit, as we would finish that day, which typically we went to more than one school in a day, then we would create lists of things we definitely liked, things we want to explore more, things that we don't want to do, that we, because sometimes a bad example is just as important as a good example. And so we collected all those notes, and then I sorted them into areas like this relates to the gym, this relates to classrooms, this relates to the building as a whole, and we've reviewed those, emailed those back out to folks to say, did we capture everything? And from there then, the architects were given that list of these are the things that we believe in Joplin. One of the things, though, Bonnie, that I'm really proud of is that we started before we had the architects selected, because we're letting learning lead the design of our buildings, not beautiful buildings. It needs to be about what's most important to us, and that is our students and their learning.
And with this information then, you basically broke it down into kind of four major categories of areas of emphasis for the vision. And so we wanted to talk about the 4 areas. What are the 4 main things that drove the vision?
Well, there's several pieces for the high school in particular that are driving kind of those kinds of things, and that's probably more clear for us for that as far as how education is changing. We want to have a career focus. We want to be sure that we look at empowering students. We want to be sure that we consider how should time be handled in the high school of the future, and we want to continue to be sure that we focus on letting kids to be in control and to move through with their motivation rates in some respects.
Now, one of the biggest components of that, of course, is the career interest focus. And this is, we're always preparing students for life after high school. What are some of the ways that career focus will be different for the new vision of our new high school?
Well, we believe that kids can begin exploring and really having a hook to their passion at an earlier age than waiting until they're out of high school and we say, so what do you want to do with your life? We really believe that school has been a place where we were preparing all kids for college. And in the world that we live in, everybody doesn't need to go to college to have a successful life and a good job and earn a great income. And so we want our kids to understand their options. I've visited with lots of adults and I've said, how many of you have met somebody and you've asked them about their job and they've said something and you've thought, I really think I would have loved to have done that. Wish I'd have known whenever I was deciding. And we want our kids to know. We want them to know what they're good at and how they can then move forward in that. And so we've established 5 paths that are interest paths, and they are the business and information technology path, the technical sciences path, the human services path, the arts and communications path, and the health sciences path.
And so as part of this, the students will also be dealing with skills that they need for regardless of what areas they go into as well.
We've defined, we actually created a little thing that lays it all out, all the 5 different paths, but right in the middle, at the core for everything, are the foundational knowledges and skills. And this is on our website, and so I would encourage everybody to go and find that. But those foundational knowledges are the soft skills. Most people don't get fired from their jobs or don't get hired because of the content knowledge. It's because of how they know how to get along and work with others, arriving on time, being responsible, putting forth a full effort. And so that has to be embedded in the learning that we do. And so it's a little bit of a different focus and kind of a bold move to say we're really going to focus on preparing kids for life as opposed to just thinking about test scores.
And with those employable skills, that's also going to help them if they go to college. I mean, learning those basic how to work with others, and so this serves multi-purposes.
Well, and even like with the laptops, you know, we went with the laptops at the high school this year, and one of the struggles has been things like kids playing games and doing those kinds of things. And I've visited with several people about that, and that's a concern at their work, that they have to learn that just because I can be on the internet at my computer doesn't mean I should be playing solitaire. And our kids are learning those skills in high school.
You know, once they, along with that, if students are often changing their minds, none of these are going to be locked in as well. Is that correct?
Right.
I mean, it allows the student to try things while they're in a safer environment like the high school.
Right. We want to create a personalized learning environment where students can choose what they want. And in fact, if they want to be the communication directors at a hospital, they might want to have classes from both the health sciences area as well as the communication area. And so kids will have the opportunity to change their mind, to have trial and error. They're high school kids. But the thing for me as a parent is that my student would be able to move up through and get to try some things out before I'm paying tuition for it.
Yes.
Which could be really helpful.
And I know you're also looking at some certification, perhaps, even associate degrees. It's at least being investigated.
Well, within each pathway, we want to be sure that we have a career path for students who will go to high school and go to work. And we want those kind of jobs to be jobs that can support a family and can help them be successful citizens. But we also then want students to go to high school and to technical school, high school to college, high school on to graduate school, and so that there would be a place for every student at our high school. And we think that they can choose a path as a freshman that says, this is what I'm interested in, and as they move through their high school career and get closer to graduation, then they get more refined into the things that they really love. And then we hope that our community will embrace our students with internship opportunities, and we can get those kids out there doing different kinds of things.
Which is wonderful. And one of the aspects of this, and I think this is so important, and I'm so glad that it was addressed, is trust as being part of the vision. So how would you identify that as being an important part of the vision?
Well, I think we played with that this year when we said, here's a computer, we trust you with this computer, we're going to trust you to pay attention and to learn and to do the things that you need to do. And we've created then a facility here at the 11th and 12th grade campus that says, you know, if you need to, you can go out and learn in different places. Before that, it was kids belong in the classroom during class time, and then we let them move for 4 minutes, and then we lock them back inside those rooms. And I have to say, as an educator, at the beginning of this year, when I was walking through the 11th and 12th grade campus here at the mall, you know, kids would be out at the tables, and they've got their computer going, and the teacher in me wanted to go, where do you need to be? Yes. You know, because they should have been in a classroom. And so it's thinking about things differently. And what we've learned this year is kids respond well when we trust them and empower them, and we let them be in charge. That's what they wanted. That's that teenage year time. And so it's really important to change our frame of reference that kind of empowers them.
And then also time. You're looking at time in a completely different way, because and I think that's a very interesting component to this as well.
Yeah, I wish we had all that figured out yet, but what we are having is a lot of questions. Like, for instance, who said that it takes the same amount of time to learn Algebra 1 as it does to learn biology or art appreciation or any class that we have? We kind of have created these little segments that fit together, and we've assumed that as long as kids arrive in that classroom for that much time, that and they do what the teacher says, that they earn that credit. And we're asking, why don't we make the learning determine the amount of time that's necessary? And so if we can define our curriculum a little bit better, that will be good. But we're also looking at the technology side of time. Blended classes, where part of the class is face-to-face with the teacher and part of the class is online. Or maybe even classes that bring lots of kids together for a really dynamic 30 minutes of a lecture that frames the work for the rest of the week, and then they break out into smaller classes with a variety of teachers, and maybe some of that's face-to-face and some of that's online, and maybe even some small group help. So that concept of going from box to box to box every 48 minutes, we're thinking that's not the way to do it, but we're not exactly sure how it's going to be done, and we'll involve a lot of people in helping us figure it out.
And I know some of this is being kind of dealt with on the 11-12 campus now, and so it'll be interesting to see what form that actually takes. I know that's one of the biggest challenges, of course, is how to utilize the time. Also, that empowering of students. I love that component of vision, because that is so important to their success.
Well, like I said before, teenagers want that power. That's oftentimes that power struggle is what moms and dads feel at home, is, you know, that they want to be in charge. They think they're all grown up and they think they're smarter than all the adults and all of that stuff. And maybe it's time that we embrace that a little bit and let them be in charge of some things and be empowered. And when we talk about this, we're talking about empowering kids to be in charge of their future. That the new high school with the Career Academy would let kids really get into what they love. So that, for instance, if a student wanted to be a doctor and they aspired to come work at Mercy or Freeman or whatever, that if they wanted to do that, they're a pretty bright kid first. So they could accelerate through some classes. And if they had the motivation, then they could actually take the time to move ahead faster. that the high school standards and what it takes to graduate from high school would be the same, but you can have extra if you'd like to do it differently. That you'll still take the same number of courses, but you may get credits in a different way. For instance, kids take the driver's test. They study a book, they take a driver's test, they pass, they prove that they're proficient, and we say they can drive. Then why can we not do a book that is about personal finance? And they could study personal finance and they could take a test, prove that they know it, that makes that they don't have to sit in that class, giving more time for them to bank for that senior year to go off and be in a hospital. And to do that. The other thing that we're thinking about is joining some classes together that fit together. For instance, a lot of times math and science makes a whole lot more sense whenever it's put together. And so could kids earn both a math and science credit in a course and be able to do that, to bank some time then for that later on when they're at that senior year to do the internships? Same thing with communication arts and social studies. And so we're playing with how can we let kids be in charge of their learning so they can take it as far as they want.
And that's interesting because when you talk about combining some of these classes, the 11th, 12th grade campus is set up in similar arrangements with different disciplines being located together to kind of start fostering some of this collaborative work as well.
The old high school had the communication arts wing and the science wing, and everything was together. And the design for the new school, and like we said, we tried that out here at the 11th and 12th grade campus, and we mixed up those disciplines so that a communication arts classroom might be next to a social studies classroom, and they could work together on projects so that the kids could see that they can do one assignment and get credit for two things. And so try to play on that, I think.
Well, now let's talk about the 21st century learning, because I know that this term, I mean, it's kind of it's driving a lot of the decisions that were made for the temporary buildings, but it's also driving the direction that you're going to be taking in the permanent buildings as well. If you had to describe what 21st century learning was to a person who graduated from a very traditional school with those very traditional halls like you were talking about, how would you identify, how is it different than just the traditional educational system?
That's an excellent question. It's so hard to answer because it's so many things. But the best description that I could give right now would be that just like our world is really different than it was in the 1950s. And you know, our high school originally was built in the 50s, and so it's really cool to drive a 1950 car around for a little bit of time. It's not so cool when you have to go on a long trip because you're missing several things that you like that are your luxuries now. Those are the givens in today's world. Technology has changed everything. And the day when school was read the chapter and answer the questions at the end, and they just really ask for facts and all of that is over. Our kids are in a very dynamic world, in a world that I don't know that we can predict. I mean, we have 2-year-olds. I know 2-year-olds that use their parents' iPhones and iPads to go all kinds of places and get on the internet or watch a movie or play a game. And if we have 2-year-olds that are doing that, what are they going to be like when they get to kindergarten? And then what will they be like when they're graduating from high school? So if we think about, we have to embrace the different things, and it can't be the learning like we did, because all those facts that we learned and that are stored in our heads, they can have within about 3 seconds on their phone that they carry with them every moment of the day. And so we're changing things and trying to make things to where they're more relevant. They're still very rigorous because we can build deep problems that kids can try to solve, and we'll use problem-based learning, challenge-based learning, trying to let them construct their knowledge, but they're engaged at a different level.
And we're going to take a short break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about, very specifically, these career paths, because I think that's a very exciting component of this. So stay with us. Welcome back. Well, now we're still talking with Dr. Angie Besendorfer, Assistant Superintendent, and we're going to be talking now about the actual 5 pathways, because I think this is the career pathways is it's so practical, and the 5 areas, and we're going to start with the business information technology area. What type of careers are involved in potentially that area?
Well, there's a lot of different kinds of careers that would be involved in that area, and those skills will touch a lot of other pathways as well. But the things that we think about are marketing and business and finance kinds of careers, even business management. You know, people who want to become that administrator in a business can be there, but also computer animation and network and computer maintenance, and even entrepreneurship. We think that there's that piece of the world that they need to just be able to explore, and so right now that's where that kind of stands. We're still tweaking these a little bit and kind of making sure that the paths that we choose to help to get kids going into are paths that are going to be important to Joplin, that they'll provide a good workforce for Joplin or a workforce for the world. And we're also looking at pathways that are going to be good jobs. And we hope that whenever we give the program, whenever you enroll in high school and you pick your classes, we see a segment on there that it says, if you want to go into the business information and technology path there, then these are some careers that would be options for you. And this is the kind of education it takes. Like, you can go to high school and get a job, and that's average salary of $32,000 a year. Or you can go to high school and you can get this job if you go to technical school, and it's going to pay this much. And so empowering kids with the knowledge about how they choose their career and what that impact is on life. We've been teaching personal finance for a long time. Now we're teaching selection of what kind of life you want.
And now a lot of kids love to work more mechanically, and so the technical services area, what type of careers are encompassed in it?
Well, it's going to be, if you think about our traditional Franklin Technology Center, you know, we're integrating our Franklin Technology Center into the high school, and what we want is to continue those programs. I mean, I, for one, like to be in air conditioning, and I hope we still have people who will know how to fix air conditioners, and so, you know, the HVAC program will still need to be in existence for now until somebody figures out how to air condition the world instead of just buildings. You know, so there's also things like construction and welding and, you know, all the auto sciences, from auto collision to auto technology. But then what about who can create the next newest car? One of the site visits, we saw a student who was working on trying to figure out how to create an engine that runs on hydrogen. Why can a Joplin kid not be the one that invents the solution to our gas problems? You know, so those kinds of sciences, along with engineering and that's all in that technical sciences area. It's a very wonderful area, including manufacturing.
And now the next pathway, the human sciences, our area has so much of that opportunity available in human services. What areas, career-wise, would be included in that?
A lot of different things, from culinary arts, which is a service-oriented kind of thing, to becoming a teacher, because we still hope we'll need those, or a daycare provider, or even those who serve in public law and public safety, like law and firemen and all of that, or hospitality and tourism, and even the kids who just want to do other things that are service-oriented, they'll learn the kind of skills that they need for that.
And as always, we're going to have those who love to entertain and communicate all types of things to people, and that is the arts and communications. What types of careers would that encompass?
You know, a lot of different kinds of things, like the students that are in the TV productions class, that would be one of them. That, you know, there are some really great careers that way. Also visual arts and performing arts. Journalism is another big area for that communication, and even theater and debate and graphic design. A lot of things that would have to do with that communication and arts and that exploration of those kinds of things. You know, it's interesting because the paths that we've selected, those 5, were were taken from lots of lists that have been developed, and a group of people pulled together and said, these are the ways we think they should be grouped. The cool thing is that kids who are great in arts and communication also may want to utilize that in welding. Because you could have
Yes.
an artist who does welding, and so that's what we mean when we say personalized. It's not like you have to be pigeonholed.
Right.
The world is at their feet. They just need to figure out what they love.
And then the last area is the health sciences, very important area to keep us all healthy. Those obviously will be a lot of medical areas as well.
Yes, and you typically think about the medical areas from nurses to doctors to, the certified nurse assistants, but it may even become a dental hygienist, or it might be that you go to school and you get your certification to be an EMT, and then you take that test and you graduate and you're ready to roll. Mom and dad are ready for you to move out of the house, and you're ready to have a job that's going to pay you something that you could possibly do that. And so that's the kind of things that we're thinking. We're really thinking that there's going to be benefits for the kids because they'll be empowered and they'll know more about choosing a career for themselves that they love. Because what I know is doing something that I love doesn't make it like I'm going to work every day.
Absolutely. Now, in the center of this, if you look at a graphic, you're going to see this whole area of the foundation skills and knowledge. And I love that because all students have to learn and be able to do certain things. You referred to it as the soft skills. What are some of the things that will encompass, and how will they be accountable for learning those things?
That's a great question. We've been visiting with our community and our business folks, and even pulled in the human resource directors from various companies in Joplin, large and small, and asked them, what should the careers be? And inevitably, they always mention it's the soft skills that get people in trouble in their jobs. And so that is from things like how to work as a team to how to problem solve and critically think about things. Their ethics, that's a big one that we want to be sure that the kids know this can get you fired, and maybe even learning what you should and shouldn't put on Facebook and those kinds of things. Communication, legal responsibilities, and even just the technological skills that kids need. It's that underpinning that makes you successful in the job that you have. And so those are really important skills.
Now, as a student, when they're choosing career paths, what will help guide the students as far as the direction that they will eventually take?
That's an interesting question because several people have said, really, you couldn't choose it as a freshman. And we've talked about that as an 8th grader getting ready to go to high school, you have to kind of figure out what you want to do. And I believe very strongly that when we sit down with their parents, the student, and some teachers that know them, that they can sit down and say, do you like science? And if they say, I love science, then you kind of know which direction you want to go. It's going to be this or this. Now, if they say, I hate science, you also clearly know what they don't want to do, or math, or social studies, or communication arts. And so building on their strengths, what I know is at 3rd grade, kids know what they're good at. And so it's helping them understand how to build upon their strengths to have a successful life. And so you don't have to choose your career when you're an 8th grader, but you need to be able to choose some areas that you're interested in and explore. And because it's not just a one-size menu and you have to have all of this, you can take it in an a la carte kind of way, then kids can be individuals and they can marry things between them, just like the example I gave about welding and art. They can do things on their own and build their own system. The key is every kid will get what the state requires for high school graduation.
And I see so many advantages with this on students who graduate from a system like this, of knowing what kind of school they want to go to even.
Well, we see a lot of kids who go to college and they start in one path and they think they're going to be a teacher. And then they realize when they get out into schools that really looked nice when I was the student, but it's not so great when I'm the teacher because I don't like kids that much. And we're okay with them not choosing that profession.
Right.
But it helps the kids to be able to make those decisions about what I like and what I don't like before parents are paying for the tuition. And I think that's going to be a huge benefit. I also think it allows them to know what's out there.
And I know so many of these things will be also helping drive the actual design of the high school as well.
That's right. We're looking at lots of windows inside the building, which is not what you typically think about. You know, you typically think about a classroom with the door shut, and we're looking at classrooms with windows, and so that the kids can see in. That then whenever we talk about would you like to be in construction, they'll actually know what that is because they'll have walked by it and been able to look in the window and see the kids running the saws and building things. Same thing with culinary arts, that they could actually walk in and see that happening and see that going on. And so it's exciting that they will be able to have a real open policy as far as those kinds of things.
Well, it's a difficult time, yet a very interesting time to make some of these major decisions and to guide the learning of our students. So I wish you continued success, and it's so exciting to see and to kind of visualize what our schools will be like in the very near future. So thank you, Dr. Besendorfer, for sharing this information.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us for this episode of Joplin Schools Preparing for the Future.